time. But here, we can just as a little warm up for the context for these problems. And yeah, I think these numbers are just fine. So you guys have seen the hint, so I'll ask the question. Okay, and there's a chat. Okay. Can someone justify the answer to number 15? And what I mean by that is show the calculation. Okay. And if you can, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Okay, Greg, why don't you type it in the chat for us?
So the whole equation, or
just like you can relate it to the parameters, so you don't have to like type the whole equation. We know the answer is 1.5, but the thing we want to ask is, you know, where do we get 1.5 from? Right?
Oh, okay, you mean like that? Okay, all right.
Just because this is just like a quick reminder for folks.
This comes from the formula that we derived in the general case, right?
Yeah.
So just because the whole thing is super long, if I'm just gonna type the slope part of it.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so and so, well, you have D1 times D1, which is probably not what you meant for the numerator.
Yeah, D2.
Yeah, so, and that ends up being what divided by what? Oh, what happened? I lost the chat window. There, okay. So now you can put the numbers in. I don't know if you want to correct your D1 in the numerator so people don't get confused.
Oh, yeah. I feel your pain now.
Oh, you mean when I'm typing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. A typo, it's like, because you're thinking, you know, it happens to me on the board sometimes too. So talking and thinking and writing all at the same time, I don't do that so well. I'm surprised I don't make more mistakes. Yeah. So 12 divided by 8, and now you guys can see it in terms of the parameters if you look at what Greg typed. So that's where we get the 1.5. And so he's giving the slope of what we call the joint marginal cost function. And then and who wants to answer? And we did it last time for question 16. But so since we're dealing with these numbers, who wants to do 16? If you do, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. I don't see a hand raised. Okay. So then are you guys gonna force me to sing the song? Okay. If you don't know the answer, raise your hand. This is number 16. If you don't know the answer, raise your hand. If you really don't know it and you need some help to show it, if you don't know the answer, raise your hand. Okay. Okay, nobody raised their hand, so everybody knows the answer. Oh, Daniel, you don't know. Oh, Jesse doesn't know the answer. Okay. John doesn't know the answer. So everybody else knows the answer. I can ask anybody. Okay. Oh, Terrell doesn't know the answer. Amnia doesn't know the answer. Okay. So Amnia, you have your mic?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
So you don't know the answer to number 16, but tell me what you think the answer is.
I think it's 54. Oh.
Omnia, and that's I'm clapping for Greg too. Okay, and so you guys remember that are you with me, Omnia?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Do you remember that this would be our low marginal cost producer or production unit, and so the cartel is going to initially utilize that low cost production facility first until the marginal cost gets up to that joint marginal cost line. Then it will use both of them, right? So that's why it's 54. Okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? No. Okay. So now we'll go on to question 17. And is there anybody that wants to answer that question? Okay. Well, it's going to actually take you guys just a little bit to figure out, but I'll give you a hint. All right. It was what we talked about at the very end last time. You got to calculate the joint marginal cost function. And then you need to find where the marginal revenue intersects the joint marginal cost and the marginal cost function of the low marginal cost unit. You got to find them both. And then you've got to see which one is higher, and that'll be the result. And remember, what you're really doing by calculating both is it's helping you check whether you're on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, or the low production side or the high production side of that crossing point where the joint marginal cost function crosses the marginal cost function of the low marginal cost producer. So I'm going to ask you guys to do two things. One is calculate the equation for the joint marginal cost function. We already have the slope, but we don't have the intercept value yet. Now, I'll tell you guys, remember the hint is that when you're looking at the intercept for the joint marginal cost function, it's got to be between the intercepts of the two marginal cost functions that are given in the question. So it's got to be some number between 54 and 63. If you end up with a number outside of that range, you know that you miscalculated somehow. And you guys already have the slope because we calculated the slope in question 15. So I'll ask you to give us the equation for the joint marginal cost function, and then I'll ask you to give us your two output values, right? And then we'll get the answer. But it's going to take you guys a few minutes to do that. Does anybody have any questions? But before I go ahead and give you guys some time to work on this. So I'm going to say, find the equation for the joint MC then find the value of output. Okay. Now, well, Jin, I really appreciate your enthusiasm. Nevertheless, we want to do it together. So just remember, I'll ask you to raise your hand and then you can share with us. So I'm not going to endorse Jin's answer. I'm not saying it's wrong either. Okay. But I'll give you guys about 5 minutes to do that. Okay. So I'm going to mute myself. Okay, if you agree with Jin's answer, raise your hand. Okay, so, and now I'll say, if you disagree with Jin's answer, raise your hand. So you guys actually that already have your hands raised, just keep them up. I'm just trying to add in the other folks. Okay. So Nelly, can you hear me? Nelly? Okay. And Leon. Leon. Okay, well, you don't have your hand up. You either agree or disagree. So which is it? Do you disagree or do you agree with Jin? You don't disagree, which means you agree. Okay, fair enough. What about you, Shelby? Do you agree or disagree? You're not sure. Okay, fair enough. And okay, so let's go to you, John. You have your mic?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
So okay, so you said that you agree with Jin. Can you, so the only thing that's left open, and hopefully this helps you too, Shelby, right? We already calculated the slope. So I agree with the slope calculation. Do you want to give us, like Greg did, the breakdown for calculating the intercept value?
Yeah, so I used the equation that we found from yesterday, using it like regarding the slope, and that's thanks to Greg because I was under the weather yesterday.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I took that equation regarding the dual marginal cost equation, which is the D1 D2Q over D1 plus D2. And so basically what I did from there was I got 12Q over 8, which is what the slope is, right?
Yeah.
And then I added, so then you have to multiply the demand of the first equation times the intercept of the second equation, and then you do vice versa, and you add those two together, and you divide by the same denominator with the first equation, which was 8. And so after doing those calculations, I got 56 and a quarter. So
Okay, can you just type it in the
oh
in the
yeah,
chat?
and sorry if my phone's ringing. It's my computer sucks.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just want? Do you want the general form equation for it, or
Well,
do
why
you
don't you
want?
do both? Because if you look in the chat earlier, can you see what Greg typed in? Because he gave us the
Oh, he gave
formula
it, for the
in terms of
slope.
for the slope in terms of the
Okay.
general parameters, D1, D2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I can type that in. You guys are just gonna hear my loud thumbs.
That's okay.
Okay. Feel under the pressure. This feels like an interview I had for an internship. Yeah, this is not good.
Hey, at least you had an interview.
I got it actually.
All right.
Crazy
good
enough.
job.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
All right. That's what it should look like. That's just the general form. And then
Okay.
and then for like the actual numbers it'd be that's what the natural
Okay.
the,
Okay. So now I'll ask Shelby. So do you see what John did, Shelby? Yeah. So does that make sense? This is. Are you okay with what John did? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, John, there's your applause. Okay. So now note all we did is find the equation for the joint marginal cost, the one that Jin had typed in for us. So now we have to calculate how much output the cartel will produce. And I don't know, did anybody find what I'm looking for is the intersection point with marginal revenue and the low marginal cost producer. And I'm looking for the quantity that represents the intersection between the joint marginal cost and the marginal revenue. So I'm looking for two numbers. Okay. Have you guys calculated those two numbers? Anybody calculate them yet? So you guys, if you calculate them, we haven't heard from Terrell. Terrell, do you have your mic? Or actually, I guess he's a little bit higher up in the queue. Are you there, Terrell?
Yeah, I have my mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did you calculate the two numbers?
I wasn't sure how to do that part actually.
Okay. Well, you could work on it right now, but remember that it's just the intersection of two equations, like supply and demand. The only thing you're solving for is Q. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, two equations, two unknown, or well, two equations and two unknowns. Yeah. Because
So are the two equations that I'm comparing the MC1 and the MC2? Or am I looking for that?
no. So remember, I don't know if you did the stuff at the very beginning,
I
right?
was
And so
following along.
Yeah, but at the very beginning, and I mean the beginning of this whole assignment, right?
Oh, okay.
It's the monopolist solution. It's where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, right? So I'm looking like now at question 13. So I don't know if you solved those equations yet. I mean, so solve those problems yet, but it's the same technique. The only thing that's going on is down here at the bottom is we don't know the marginal costs, but the marginal costs that we're supposed to use in question 13 is given. Well, yeah, so Shelby asks a question, and I would answer the question. Do you have your mic, Shelby, or no, you don't have a mic? Oh, yeah. Okay. So Amazon, there's still time. Okay. Yeah. So and Jin's comments, right, Shelby, is you've got to actually remember, I'm telling you guys, you got to do both, right? So if you don't do both, you won't know which side of the crossing point you're on. So if you're still with us, Terrell, so you have to first compute the marginal revenue given from the demand equation. And then you've got to set marginal revenue equal to marginal cost and compute the Q from the intersection. Once you set those equal to each other, marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. For this low marginal cost producer, you do that first. And then you take marginal revenue equal to the joint marginal cost. Get it? Okay. So what about you, Ruben? Did you take care of that already? Ruben, do you have your mic? Yeah, okay, Ruben.
Yeah, and this is what I got.
Okay, so why don't you type you and tell us and type it in the chat. For the intersection with the low marginal cost, why don't you give us that one first? You can call it QL. Okay. Okay, so I see here. So you said, oh, so you did it for the joint here first. So I would have called that one QJ. And what about QL? What'd you get for that one?
Let me see.
Are you working on it?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. And you can type that in the chat too. The way that you did it in the chat with the joint one is perfect. You can just put your information that way. Okay. All right, so look at these two values, right? And the one that's greater is the crossing with the joint marginal cost function, right? So let's look at our hints here. Well, that's the intercept. Here's the output. Okay, And see how the 17.82 is greater than 17.54, Ruben?
Yeah.
So that's the correct answer. Okay, so Ruben, and so hopefully, and I'm going to try to annotate over this. Let me see if I can find my annotation tools. Um, well, okay. Do you have your mic, Noah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So remember, now we could go through all the process, but what it boils down to is, since we're dealing with a linear marginal cost function, I mean a linear demand function, then the marginal revenue has the same intercept and twice the slope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you could remember that, or you could remember that, you know, total revenue is price times quantity, and the derivative of the total revenue function is the marginal revenue function, but it would give you the same formula.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. So Ian, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So does that resolve your question?
Yeah, that was like just unfortunate timing.
Okay. Okay. So I can't see the darned annotation tools here. And let's see. It's not. Okay, so this is the situation that we're dealing with, and now we're trying to figure out, okay, you know, what's the you know, what are the two firms producing each of them? So we know that, and let me double check here. Move this around a little bit more. Okay. So, okay. Actually, I think I have to take this back for a minute. Let me go back and look at Ruben's answer. So actually, we decided with Ruben's answer, it was the crossing with the joint marginal cost. So actually, our crossing was like the other one that we had. So I'll move it. Okay, it's like this. Okay. Because the crossing with the joint marginal cost was where we had the higher quantity, right? So we know their joint production. So all we have to do is figure out how much one of them is producing, right? So if we know total equals, and I'll put total Q, right, is 17.82, then all we have to do is find Q, and we know total Q is equal to, and I'll just put QL plus QH for the total for the low cost producer and the high cost producer. So obviously, all we have to do is find QL. And what we know is that the marginal revenue is equal to the MC joint. But one of the things we didn't solve for, we solved for the Q, but we really don't know what, and I'll put it as the marginal revenue at Q total, right? So we don't know what their marginal revenue is, but we know that the marginal cost for the low cost producer is going to have the same marginal cost as the high cost producer, which is also going to be equal to the marginal revenue that they receive at their equilibrium level of production. So Q total. So what we have to do first is we have to take our Q total and plug it back into the marginal revenue equation and find out, remember marginal revenue is how much money they're making on each unit. So once you know how much money they're making on each unit, they're both going to be setting marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. So once you have the marginal revenue, then you can disaggregate the production between the two. So that's the way to solve it. So does everybody understand, or does anybody have any questions? Go ahead and lower your hands for a minute. And if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. So we'll break this down a little bit. And the first question I'll ask is, what's marginal revenue Q total? And once you guys have computed that, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. And I'm gonna stop sharing that screen, and I'll go back to the assignment, if it'll let me. Okay. Okay. So everybody should be able to see the questions again. So did anybody calculate marginal revenue yet? So remember, this is not the marginal revenue equation. This is the value of marginal revenue at Q total. Okay. So Ruben calculated it. Anybody else? And Aubrey calculated it. Okay. Okay, Ian, why don't we ask you? You're I know you have a mic. So are you there, Ian?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So have you calculated the marginal revenue yet, or no?
No.
Okay. So what are you struggling with?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is to find the answer for number 19, right?
Yep.
Is this Yeah.
Well,
so
actually, it's number 18.
it's number 18.
Yeah, but 18 and 19 are really closely linked, as you can see. Because remember, what I
Okay.
put in the chat was obviously firm one's producing a certain amount, and firm two is producing a certain
Right.
amount, and we found the total. So if you
We found the joint MC slope and intercept, right?
yeah, we did, but remember we also then found where the joint MC, it turned out that was the high production level. We
Right.
found the where the joint MC crossed the marginal revenue, and that was the number that Ruben had given us in the chat of 17.82.
Would we set the demand or the marginal revenue function to the firm one equation, and then that would give us?
Well, no, because now, and I don't know if you remember the picture I was showing you, but all you have to do is you have the equation for marginal revenue, right? So we have marginal revenue is equal, and I'm putting it in the chat right now, to 475 minus 22Q, right? And so obviously that's a marginal revenue function. It's a function of Q. And so now we know Q is equal to 17.2. So marginal revenue at Q is equal to 17.82, right? Is equal to 475 minus 22 times 17.82. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and remember, so that's the value of marginal revenue. So we found, the total quantity by finding where marginal revenue crosses the joint marginal cost function and QT. So there's marginal revenue and the joint marginal cost. And now we're finding the height. So marginal revenue at QT. And I'll show you. Can you see my little picture? I don't know if that, can you see that marginal revenue at QT? So we're finding that value there. And we know QT is equal to 17.82. So we just have to plug it into the equation. Can you see my diagram when I hold it like that? Because it looks reversed in my camera.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. So now we're just finding the height there of that value. So we plug it into the equation and we get the value of that function there, which is
okay. The reason why I was so confused at first because I thought we were doing 19 and we were using the MC low, the low one.
Yeah. Well, actually, so if you look at 18 and 19, remember for 18 and 19, the only thing that's different between them is we have the QT is equal to Q, and I'm just going to call it QL plus QH. So, right, so we know the QT is equal to 17.82, and so they're really the same problem. It's just that for 18 you're finding that, and for 19 you're finding that.
Right. Okay.
Right. So anyway, so Aubrey, you had raised your hand. Why don't you give us the value?
I got 82.96.
You wanna type it in the chat because I can't hear you very well. I don't know if your mic's turned down a little bit low.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many people agree with Aubrey? Anybody disagree with Aubrey? Okay. Okay. If you did, okay, good. All right. So we know that the marginal revenue for both of these firms is going to be $82.96, right? And so now, Aubrey, did you calculate the output for firm one? So you're just going to set marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. And
Marginal cost for the second firm? Do you mean?
well, it says output for firm one.
For firm one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I did not do that.
Okay. And you want to do it really quickly? Or if anybody else has it, you guys can go ahead and type it in the chat. Okay. So, well, the only thing I would quibble with a little bit is the MC joint part, Ruben. So, I'm not saying that you're like wrong in sort of like a cosmic sense, because it turns out that if you actually evaluate the value or the height of the joint marginal cost function, because it crosses marginal revenue, it'll be the same value. It'll be that 82.96 or 98 that both you and Aubrey came up with. But it's better to say marginal revenue, just for clarity purposes. Do you see what I mean, Ruben? Okay, yeah. So marginal revenue, like Aubrey calculated, is 82.98 is equal to 54.2 QL, and then you go ahead and you do your solution. Do a little bit of algebra, like Ruben did, and so here I just want to be clear. Obviously, I don't know. Maybe Aubrey's answer would have been a little bit closer, but it's close enough. If we were to do this on Ignithium, I'll put in Ruben's answer. He had 14.59 and submit, and it says yay, right? So there's a little bit of rounding error in there, but that's okay. So Ruben and Aubrey. And then I'll ask you to answer this one, Ian. Okay. So, so what's the answer to question 19, Ian?
QL, okay.
And if you need a hint, let me know.
I think 14. Is it 3.26?
Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah. So this is what you did, right, Ian?
Yeah, I just did simple. Okay.
Okay. And let's do 3.26. Oh, dang it. Anyway, you got the right answer. I think I goofed it up by hitting the wrong button. But now I got to go back and the numbers will all be different. Dang it. But anyway, so Ian, good job. So I'm just going to go back here, not because we know all the numbers have changed, and that's fine. But the last question is pretty easy, right? There's only one thing that we didn't do, and I'll ask you guys to think about it for a minute. So if we look at question 20, and it says how much profit will firm 2 earn as part of the cartel. Now, obviously, we could calculate the profit for firm 1. We could calculate the cartel's profit if we know the profit for each of the members of the cartel. And all of those things become like important. But question 20 just asks us to calculate the profit for firm 2. So who has a strategy that they would like to offer for that? What do we need? Okay. So yeah, so Jen, do you have a mic? No. Okay. How about Omnia? Omnia, you have a mic, don't you? You normally have a mic.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So let's take Jin's suggestion because he's right, right? I mean, we need the price. So do you know how we would do that, Omnia?
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so remember, this is a traditional, I mean, the setup is a monopoly problem, right?
Yeah.
And so for the monopoly, the real difference here, and I'm going to label it, right? And then maybe you'll be able to see. There's your hint. Can you see the picture?
Yes.
So we got demand and we've got marginal revenue. And I labeled this as joint marginal cost. So you can see there's our Q total, right?
Yeah.
So where's our price?
Do we plug it back in, or do we plug the Q we got from 17 back into the inverse demand function?
Yeah, exactly. So to find the monopolist's price, we would do that.
Yeah.
Right. So for the problem that we had, we still have the equations, even though we can't verify it. But we had that the inverse demand function, we said it was 475 minus 11Q, right? So based on that, what would our price be, Omnia?
I got 278.98.
278.98. I don't have my calculator with me, so I'm gonna guess because you just plugged in 17.82, which was our Q total.
Yes, into the P equation.
Yeah, into our inverse demand equation as you properly described it. And so you want to type that into our chat just so we have a record.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So did you type it in? Or are you doing it right now?
I'm doing it right now. It's a little difficult.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much. So now I'll ask you. So they're asking about profit for firm 2. So what do you think you would do next? What do you think, Omnia? Your mic is off, so I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was on.
Yeah.
So
So just describe to us what you're thinking. What are your thoughts on?
well, for profit, it's total revenue minus total cost.
Right. So profit equals.
So we use the profit or total revenue is equal to the price times the quantity.
Right.
And then minus the total. This is where I'm getting a little lost, actually.
Okay. Well, which is the? So do you see what I wrote in the chat?
No.
For profit.
Yeah. Okay. I see it.
Yeah. So you agree with that, right? So
Yeah.
the total revenue is pretty straightforward, right? Because we have the price, you just gave it to us, 278.98, and we have the quantity which was given to us before, which we calculated at, so Ignithium said 33.33, but we calculated, we'll do the rounding error version. It's that calculation, right? But what are we missing?
The total cost.
Yeah. So what do you think about the total cost?
I'm not sure.
Well, okay, so what do you know about total cost? Anything come to mind? Total cost, it's got to be equal to something. And if you read the question carefully, there's a hint there.
It gives us the fixed cost plus the, or not plus. Do we like subtract the fixed cost?
Well, okay, so I'll give you one more hint before I go ahead and blow the whole thing. But so total cost is equal to blank and blank. Can you fill in the blanks?
Well, I thought it was fixed cost plus variable cost.
Yes, right. And you already have the fixed costs in the problem, right? So the only thing you're missing is that, right? You don't know what the variable cost is. So, but do you know what the variable cost is?
No, I'm really not sure.
Okay. So here's the question. Does anybody know how to calculate variable costs based on what's given in the problem? Noah, you have your hand up. No. Okay. So Jen, I like where you're going, but suppose we can't use integration. Can you describe marginal cost more simply? Draw the picture, and what would I show in the picture? The area under the MC, right? So if I draw the marginal cost as a line, and I pick some quantity. This would be the quantity that firm 2 is producing, which we said is 33.26, then the variable cost is that, right? And can anybody, so you can do this, Jen. So what's the area, if you're going to describe that, what is this? What shape is that? Yeah, it's a oh yeah. Okay, so John chimed in. It's a trapezoid, right? And we've been calculating areas of trapezoids like this for a while. So you guys should be able to do that. It's pretty straightforward, right? So I'll let you guys spend a minute calculating the area of the trapezoid, and then we'll finish up the problem, and then we should be done. So go ahead and take a minute and calculate the area of the trapezoid, and then calculate the profit for our problem, and I'll be right back. Okay. So did you guys come up with answers? If you have an answer, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Hmm. Okay. How about Celine? Do you have your mic today? Okay. Okay, well, at least you're there. Okay. Okay, Robin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I actually have a question. So, are we using the old MC equations, or are we using these ones that are on our screen right now?
Oh, well, it's probably better if we use the old ones.
Okay, just checking. All right, I'll
Yeah.
calculate that right now.
And it's a good thing that you mentioned that anyway, because I'd have to go back and look in our history here. So we had been working the whole time with MCL, and so if I go back to John's, I think our MCH, which is our firm 2, is going to be 63 plus 6Q. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think that's the one that we're working with. Okay. Now, if anybody else wants to chime in because they calculated it, what about you, Danny? Do you have your mic today?
Yeah, I have my mic.
Okay. So how are you doing?
So I just crossed it all out because I was using my the new numbers.
Oh, okay.
So when I was doing it, I tried to find the area of the of the slope. I mean, under the slope. And I got a really big number.
Well, yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean that variable cost can't be a big number. That's okay.
Yeah, it just scared me.
Right. Yeah. Well.
So I put 292 at the top on the y-axis, and then 10 at the bottom, and 59 for the x-axis.
Well, okay. Well, I think right. We agreed that our equation for our MC is this one, right?
Okay, yeah. So that's the old one. Got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need is this would be 63, and so there.
Cool.
Right.
Okay.
And so we need this into so it's 6 times 3.26 plus 63 would give us the height there, right? Because that's our equation. You like my new whiteboard?
Your new whiteboard. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. So what value do you get for the height of this portion of the trapezoid?
6 times 82 point. Hold on. $82.56.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that number sounds familiar or not, but since we used it before, remember, it's the same marginal revenue value that we had before.
Yeah, I wish we
Right.
had the real numbers. Yeah.
And this is what Jin had given us, 82.96.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we just take the average of the bases times the height, right? So 63 plus 82.96 divided by 2 times 3.26.
I'll do that. I got 237.91.
Okay. $237.91.
Oh, okay, and that's under the cool.
Yeah, that's the area under the curve. You just calculated. Does everybody agree with Danny's calculation? Anybody disagree with it? Okay. So now all we have to do is finish off Omnia's calculation, where we didn't actually end up calculating the total revenue, but if you go back in the chat and you see, then her total revenue is our 278 0.98 times 3.26 minus the total cost. And does anybody want to give me the final calculation? Because now we have our total cost. We just calculated our variable costs. We add our fixed costs. Okay, Robin, you want to?
Yeah, so I did what you did on the left, and then for total costs, I just did the variable cost minus the 100.
I mean, yeah, because it's total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost, but you're subtracting all of that. So, right.
Oh, you're adding them. My bad. Okay, I need to recalculate this. One sec. Oh, so yeah, okay, yeah, I got you. All right, cool. Let me put that in my calculator.
So it looks like, and I don't have a calculator working right now, but I could do my calculator. Hold on a minute. I got my phone right here. So we have 278.98 times 3.26, and I get total revenue is equal to 909.47, and you have the total cost for us then, Robin?
Yeah, so for the total cost, I just added 237.98 plus 100, and then I subtracted that from.
So you have 337.91 for the total cost.
Yeah.
And so we have our profit for firm 2 is equal to what?
I roughly got 571.45.
Okay, which I'm gonna, well, I'll just double check your calculation just to make sure. So I got my 909, and I might subtract off 337.91, and I get 571.56, and I'll put a little $sign. How's that?
Looks good.
Okay, so I say clap for Robin and for Danny and anybody else that helped. Thank you. Congratulations. You guys did it. So we finished all the problems for this assignment. So what I would recommend that you guys do is go back and obviously look at some other instances of this and make sure that you can do it. Sometimes you'll get a crossing point that's the left of the marginal revenue, and sometimes you get one that's to the right. And you want to be able to make sure that you can do both cases. The technique is the same. The thing that makes this section of the homework problem or homework problems tricky is that you aren't used to calculating two different potential equilibria. And here you have to calculate the two different potential equilibria, the one where only the marginal cost of the low production facility is being used, and the other one where they're both being used, and see which one, in this case, gives you more output, because that's going to be the one that generates more profit for the firm. Because remember, it's setting marginal cost equal to marginal revenue, but you don't really know what the marginal cost function is. If they're just using one of the firms that are one of the production facilities, then it's just going to be that production facility's marginal cost in that case. So this one, there's some subtlety too. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of, so first of all, I'll say, are there any questions? I mean, you guys can go back. I'll post this video, and you can skip to the different sections and see as we go through it. But are there any questions? If you guys have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and